the very top, as they say in the trade. It was on, it was off, then it was on, and then, well, you guessed it, it was off. The lawyers were called in, and zillions in compensation was talked about. Meanwhile, they carried on talking. Just 6 or so men in a secret room in Las Vegas talking about a fight that was worth $500 million. That's a lot of money. Some fight, eh? In one corner, the would-be president of the Philippines, Manny Pacquiao, and in the other, the darling of the American boxing fans. Well, is he? That's Floyd Money Mayweather. They were meant to fight on March 13th. It was so big that a $10 million fine was agreed by Mayweather if he came in over a stipulated weight. That's big. But right now, it is in the bin. It is in the Kazi. All over, all off. But, surely not. Anyway, to make sense of the very real chaos is the BBC's official boxing correspondent, the voice of boxing on the Beeb, Mike Costello. Good evening, Mike.
Hello, Steve.
Mike, this has been about 3 or 4 weeks of non-stop shenanigans, and the reason why I've got you on is that it's not something I can treat lightly with some imbecile trying to give me his opinion. I've got to have facts and figures. First of all, just talk us through what's happened the last 3 weeks with what was going to be not just the super fight, one of the biggest fights of all time.
Well, I think what was the biggest surprise to all of us was how smoothly negotiations went in the first place for just about every detail in the contract. About the money, first of all, split 50-50. Both fighters guaranteed $25 million, with many in the game suggesting that those purses would eventually rise to around $40 million apiece. And that's why the cynics all through these hang-ups during the week have been suggesting that the fight will happen because each fighter's got 40 million reasons to make it happen. But the one stumbling block has been the method of drug testing. And there have been allegations from the Mayweather camp, from Mayweather himself, from his dad, and from others, that Manny Pacquiao, on his rise through the weights, winning world titles or beating the world #1 in 7 weight divisions, that he's done it on the back of performance-enhancing substances. And Pacquiao himself last week issued a lawsuit. So it was all getting very messy, to the point where this week, on Tuesday of this week, both sides agreed to go to a mediator, a retired federal judge called Daniel Weinstein, who had mediated in a dispute between the two promotional companies in the past, and they sat for 9 hours on Tuesday to try and iron out all details, and both sides came away from that meeting saying absolutely nothing. Now, given what had gone on in the build-up to that date, that was yet another surprise. And then at 5:30 this morning our time, so at around 9:30 in the evening Las Vegas time, Bob Arum's time, on Wednesday evening, so almost 2 days after the mediation talks had started, he came out this morning, our time, fuming and saying that the fight's off, that Mayweather doesn't want the fight, he's a psychological coward, and there's no going back. Now, to go back over this stumbling block, Manny Pacquiao had slightly softened his stance. Mayweather had demanded unlimited urine testing and unlimited blood testing.
Unprecedented in boxing, that is, Mike, correct?
Yes, it is, and that's why some felt that it was unfair on Pacquiao. Others felt that if Pacquiao had nothing to hide, then why didn't he submit himself to this extra rigorous testing? And the difference, just to point out for those who don't follow these kind of things, is the difference between urine testing and blood testing is that with blood testing they can detect many more drugs than they can with just urine testing. So Mayweather was asking for unlimited and random testing on Manny Pacquiao. So in other words, at any time during the build-up, right up to the first bell, the testers could call on him and ask for a sample. Now, Pacquiao was refusing in the outset to submit to any test within 30 days. Now, after mediation talks, he said he would have a test at some point up to 24 days, a blood test 24 days before the fight, as he did before he fought Ricky Hatton last year. But I've been liaising by email, Steve, with somebody very close to Pacquiao. Now, I know 100 people claim to be that in his camp, but he's been saying an equally important issue for Pacquiao was an apology from Mayweather about these accusations that he took performance-enhancing drugs. And he said that was really important to Manny Pacquiao. So 2 key points there about the method of drug testing and the apology. And Bob Arum has come away saying, we've given everything we can. But what's interesting, Steve, this all broke at 5:30 this morning. We've heard right up to now, and it's midday Las Vegas now, 1/4 midday almost in Las Vegas, we've still heard nothing from Mayweather or Golden Boy Promotions, who are acting as his promoters for this particular contest. Now, Bob Arum says Pacquiao has changed his stance as far as they are possibly going to do it. So, you know, I don't know, Steve, if there is just one final twist in this story, but still we've heard nothing, you know, what, 15 hours on since Bob Arum fumed that the fight was off.
Mate, I've got to tell you, if they do a U-turn now, and it wouldn't be the first U-turn in the history of boxing, I mean, these guys have been in far worse altercations than this in the past and then sat down and made a deal. But what's different here is this is a global story now. It's a viral story. Everybody has followed it. You can't go to all these threats of multi-million-pound lawsuits, secret negotiations that last into the middle of the night, 2 or 3 nights running, and then suddenly sit down and say, oh, now we've agreed. I've got to be honest with you. I think, as bad as this has been for boxing, I think it'll be worse if they all shake hands tomorrow and we see them all smiling, because people will see through it, and they'll see then it's just dollars, and that will make us look even cruder than we really are, Mike.
Yes, and the cynics will return to what they were saying at the start of this week, Steve, which is that this is all a play. This is all a drama which has been cleverly and clearly rehearsed by both sides to build up the interest. Because remember, if you like, Steve, they're playing catch up. Because
yeah, of course.
Look at the biggest fights of the last 2 and 3 years, and go back 2.5 years to the biggest selling fight of all time as far as pay-per-view is concerned, Mayweather against Oscar De La Hoya. Now, that was announced in December for a fight that took place on May the 5th or 6th or something like that. They had 5 months build-up,
and that's what they needed
to make everybody aware that it was going to happen. And I remember one of the top executives at HBO, Ross Greenberg, saying at that stage that by the time we finish the build-up to this fight, there is nobody on the planet won't know it's happening. And so, you know, given that they've only got probably 6 or 7 weeks between now and fight time, Steve, to really generate the kind of hype that would translate into record pay-per-view figures, you know, you can buy into this cynic's view that this has been cleverly rehearsed. But having said that, if there is no change either tonight, Steve, or tomorrow, then it is too late for March the 13th. It's too late to get that show on the road, and it's too late for the fighters to get the right kind of preparation done.
I couldn't agree more, Mike. Of course, we said this, and we're not being after timers, just to show that we were right on the ball. When Amir Khan defended his title against the nice Jewish kid from New York who fell over after about 8 seconds, when a bagel hit him on the ear or something.
Back in a double bagel.
double bagel, although no one saw the first. In fact, it was a phantom bagel when that happened, and it was a brilliant night, and it was a great night, and it was absolutely wasn't Amir's fault or as the promoter or anyone else who was involved with the promotion. Now, we said then, live on air on BBC 5 Live, we said then that March 13, that was when everything looked like it was hunky-dory. We said then, it's not enough time. Now, that was a month ago.
Yes.
And suddenly if they announce it tomorrow, it's nowhere near enough time. You need, as you mentioned there, the De La Hoya Mayweather fight, the biggest fight in history financially. You need time. Mike, let me ask you this before I move on, because this snow, I've got to travel every about 6.5 minutes.
I was going to say, hurry up, because my legs are burning here by the log fire, Steve.
It's the travel show with Steve Bunce on BBC London 94.9 tonight. Anyway, Mike, let me ask you this, just in passing. Do you think it will still happen at some point in the future?
Yes, I do. I have grave doubts about March the 13th, but I think it can happen later in the year. Probably not May, because Pacquiao is running for Congress back in the Philippines. But you know, September is a key television date in the States, and so is the first week in November. So there are still possibilities. And I think it's very, very important, Steve, and as you know from the past, I'm very close to being Floyd Mayweather's #1 fan, but he cannot be seen. As you said, this story has gone global. He cannot be seen to be ducking out of this. You know, the dent to his credibility would be huge. So it's very important for Mayweather
he gets
to come good on this. Yeah.
Listen, I agree. Mike Costello, thanks very much. Mike, thanks very much. We'll speak very soon indeed. Now,